Can you find God every day for 30 days straight and document it?
Welcome to the Vlogpastors Podcast, a podcast all about the stories and strategies of sharing God's love in the digital world. Now, here are two pastors that love to put a camera in their face and walk around in public. They are the Lewis and Clark of digital ministry, Jarrod Brown and Joshua Verwers.
That's right, I am Joshua Verwers.
And I'm Jarrod Brown, and this is episode 63.
And whether you are catching us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, watching or listening, on all of the things, we just want to welcome you to the show.
Yeah, and if you want to help guide this conversation, if you will, hop on in. Every Wednesday, 10:30, you could do it.
Yes, it's typically every Wednesday, 10:30. However, those that are actually joining us today are finding out that it was at 10:30, and then it was at 10:45, and then it was at 11.
At 11.
Yeah, only because we decided to try to break the live stream, and we broke it good. This is take two.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love this show.
Hey, today, Jarrod, we are talking about something that I have been looking forward to talking about on this podcast for the last 4 weeks. You have undertaken a month-long, 30-day Finding God Every Day series, or Finding God Each Day. So I've been wanting to talk about that. And we've, in the last last episode, we were talking about briefly, we just kind of mentioned it. Mm-hmm. But you are wrapping up. Today is day 28 of that. That's why I say 4 weeks, because I can do some quick math in my head. But that means you've got 2-3 more episodes that you got to upload, 2 episodes, something like that?
We have 2 more episodes. Yep.
2 more episodes that you have to upload.
Oh, yeah.
So, first question, are they already complete?
Okay. So, you see what had happened was, along the series, we started off 4 days. We wanted to give ourselves 4-ish days. Well, we got way ahead. We wanted to make sure that once we started editing these things, it was taking us a long time, lot longer than we thought. So we ended up getting about 7 days, I want to say, 7 days ahead. And some bits we filmed way further than that in advance, maybe 2 weeks or so. But by the time we got started, we were about 7 days ahead. And then we did that mission trip where we were out of pocket for a couple of days, still filming, but out of pocket. So we went and did the mission trip, and then every weekend I found myself, there was like one day where nothing was going right or happening, my friend. It's just one of those days where you were forcing it.
Right.
And so we would just like set it down, either spend the rest of the day, praying, hanging out, enjoying one another's company, or just like scrapping the day. And so we did that more times than I would care to admit. And those days kept on like shrinking. And so we were only, I think by the end of this thing, we just finished filming yesterday, which was insane.
Awesome.
It was so much fun. We just wrapped filming yesterday, and that will go live tomorrow. So whatever, however many days that is. So that 2 days, something like that by the end of it. Started with 7, ended with 2, needed every second.
So I guess to answer the hook question that I gave there, can you find God every day for 30 days? Absolutely. Can you document it every day? That's
the hardest part. I don't know if it came out in this last episode or the next one. And this is what we do every day anyway. Mm-hmm. God is leading every segment. And I would say we missed 3/4 of the things that he did, even trying to document everything he's doing, because it just happens so fast.
Yeah.
When he's leading into something, somebody will say something. And what I found is that the things that I discounted early on as like, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, those were him screaming, but like in a still small voice, as he does, that became a roar towards the end of it. And we just didn't realize that those moments were as important as they were. And so had we documented some of those side conversations and some of those seemingly, insignificant issues that we cut out of the vlog, they would have been pretty powerful by the end of it, because there's some pretty cool bits. But by far, hardest part was throwing a camera up and leaving it up through awkward.
Oh,
By far. That was a skill that I had to teach Jessie. And even in this last episode, there's the big finale, and it's amazing. I look over at her, and I hope it makes it in, but I look over at her, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
She puts down the phone, and she's just enjoying, the moment, because it's powerful, and she's enjoying the moment. And I'm like, babe, there's people who have been a part of this ride for 30 days. They need to see the emotions, the reactions, the whole nine as well. It's just like, yeah. So documenting the journey is the only new variable. I think we got better at it as we went on, just leaving the camera running. But it was fun. Can you find God every day? Of course. He's ready and willing to be front and center.
And can you document it? Sure.
Document it,
but
to varying degrees of success. Yeah.
Big asterisk on there. And that was something that I was kind of curious how you were going to do this, because we talked last week about how, Ryan Trahan's Penny series was kind of a blueprint for this. However, even his Penny series, he had somebody else following him around through the majority of that to be able to record some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've seen other people that do, different things, especially in the Christian realm, where it's different type of videos that show some of those, deep interactions. It's often a camera that is placed so far away, or it's somebody that's recording it from a distance themselves. And that, having been in this YouTube game for a while, that was one of my questions going into this. How well are you going to be able to document this? And not just you, but if you're struggling with it, that means all of us are going to be struggling with it, because you've got the videography experience, you've got the vlogging background. And so if there's struggles in it for you to do this, it's something that's where, if I'm going forward and I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, what does the next iteration of this look like? I don't know, because the document aspect, I like, even in today's video, there were a couple times, and I've seen this, you've done it several times, where you're using the phone to record a lot of this, and you'll just set the phone down, so it's still recording, which the audio is great, but then for the visual aspect, because that's the thing about, vlogging, it's the show and tell. And it's like, well, there's not as much showing that's going on. Not that that's negative or anything. Yeah. It's just a case that it's something that I noticed, because that's where this series has differed from your other vlogs. Because your other vlogs, you're not just setting the camera down, staring at the roof of the car or anything like that. But fully aware and understand why that is the case. Because, yes, I get that. This is stuff that we as pastors, we're doing this stuff all the time. And you and I had talked about this, the struggle with pulling ourselves out of that moment just to set up a camera.
Yeah.
And I just want to, on record, applaud you from never allowing yourself, at least as it's come across, never allowing yourself to get pulled out of that moment just for the sake of capturing it. If you could, you did. If you didn't, you didn't.
If you've watched the series, you'll see that episode 2 or 3, somewhere in there, we had to make a conscious decision that no matter what, and it's one of the rules, no matter what we're going to do what God says, no matter what, we weren't going to let anything influence or break that connection, because the whole series is, which we found out later, is a gift. And we're a part of giving that gift. And if we taint that in any way, then we've missed the whole point of the entire series. We want people to see God. The hard part, like you said, is all of my previous content is not staged, but it's thought through from like a Casey Neistat approach.
Correct.
I'm going to be going to the truck. Yep. Therefore, I'm going to set up my camera and I'm going to walk to the truck and I'm going to... Well, in this style, if I'm to live my life and just run after God, there is no way you can set up a camera, tear it down, ask permissions, move this over here. Is everybody in the room okay with this right here? It's just, you're just flipping out. I'm fortunate to have a wife who knows how to run a cell phone, and she's, it's second nature to her to pull it out sometimes and film what's going on.
Yeah.
But that for me would be the closest thing to having somebody follow you along and document it. But I don't think you can. If you can, that's the next iteration of it. If you can stage it up and still stay in the flow, that would be the next iteration of it for me, for sure. I don't want to mess with it. I like, and that was one of the things that we stole. That was one of the things that we purposefully modeled after Ryan Trahan's was I think you and me and Diana were talking about it one time. It's like he has this. It's the stupid Gen Z thing with the microphone, and half of it is done on cell phone.
Yeah.
And like you miss pieces, but as long as the story's there and you have clean audio, you're gonna be okay. The people are gonna be able to travel along. If you don't have audio and the story's not there, then you've lost it. Which we've done that a couple episodes this time around.
Yeah, I mean, bad video people will forgive. They'll do that, and that's something that's hard for me to say out loud. Because as we were talking, uploading and hitting publish on something that's only rendered to 360p, that's a struggle for me. But I had to practice what I was preaching, in that they will forgive a bad video. They won't forgive bad audio. That's the struggle. I mean, some will obviously, but if it's horrible, like if it sounds like it came from a tin can, but you could only figure out it came from a tin can by blowing out your speakers, by trying to crank it up that loud, they're probably not going to forgive that. If it's just background noise, if it's our dogs barking in the back of this podcast, people don't care.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal.
I
and that's where I did love you captured so much, and the pace of these were fire. Like, they were perfect pacing. It kept my attention. Some of them I was actually wanting more. And it was like, why did it end so soon? Like, I don't want to wait till tomorrow. But that was the other thing. It had me hooked, looking forward till tomorrow. So yeah, it's like you definitely found something. And that's where I say you didn't just find God for 30 days. You found him before that, because you found him watching Ryan Trahan's thing, and then it was like, what if we did this in our context?
I'm so glad we had the conversation last week about redemptive work on this thing, because I learned even more about like why I was drawn to his series, the Penny to Mr. Beast series, because that, like, the stuff before and even the stuff a little bit after, I think Diana was chatting about it the other day, the whole Hobbit in the hole, he's built his own survival thing.
Right.
Like, cool. I'm sure it has redemptive value in it. I'm sure he's trying to communicate a message, but it doesn't have that same appeal to it. Like, I'm going to watch it now because he sucked me in with the whole Penny to Mr. Beast series.
Right.
But there was something about that series that stood out, and I couldn't figure it out until last week. And that was what I wanted to infuse in this.
And he cut out on us. That's what he wanted to infuse in this. Don't you love how that happens? Right in the middle of the stream. Right in the middle of the stream. He's ready, and he's making a moment, and then all of a sudden, here we go again. Another breakage. So I think while we're waiting, hopefully Jarrod will hop back in here. In that meantime, we can go ahead and take a look. Get a couple comments in here as well. So first one here, John Hayes was saying something here. He said he was going to answer mine in the pre-show or the pre-show. John was asking, and he had put a comment out there, am I going to talk about whether or not Genevieve is going to be repairing and fixing the truck? She probably won't fix the truck. I will either do it, or I'll pay somebody to do it. Or I just won't, because really, it's not that big of a deal. But that's a quick answer on there. Yes, and just giving him a hard time. Sure, you were giving me a hard time. I don't even remember what Genevieve's question was. I'm not even going to try to think back on what Genevieve's question was. I forgot it already. All I know is I said really like 5 times. Yes, and John, I'm thinking John is the one who puts that disclaimer in the book of John. He couldn't capture everything that Jesus said or did while he was on earth. Yeah, absolutely. That's something that is one to kind of think about, where when we're trying to capture all this stuff, you bounced out. And that's all right because I just went straight into a question here. But do you remember your train of thought?
No. I'm sure it was fantastic, though.
The last thing I heard you say
saying,
was you were trying to. That's what we were trying to infuse, and then you froze.
Yeah, I was. Where I was going was I was. Hats off to Ryan. Wanted to model obviously the series after that redemptive, inspirational type of almost like you can do this.
Yeah.
So finding God each day, you can do this. The adventure is fun. We wanted the audience to invest in a character, and Diana hit the nail on the head last night when she noticed the nostalgia, the Mario themes that we were, you level up, upgrade. So if you notice, even the sound effects in the series have like a whenever you get a mushroom and it
Yep.
It's not the exact one because we don't want to use obviously trademark stuff, but we wanted to have that similar kind of 2D feel of we've upgraded and you were a part of it. So you're part of the journey, all those storytelling items. But like at the core of it, we wanted people to see that if he can do it, we can do it. I can do it. I think that's something that Casey, I've noticed about Casey that he was able to put into his vlogs. Obviously, we started vlogging because we saw Casey and went, I think we could do that.
Right.
And I've heard people who have started their stuff, their works, looking at our videos and going,
I think I can do that.
I think I could do that. And this was the gift in showing people he's out there, he wants to be found, and if you want to document that process as far as sharing, like your testimony, I bet you could do that. Because this wasn't a very high bar to entry. This is a cell phone and a good time.
So let me put myself in the audience standpoint of, I think I can do that. I think I could show people how to find God in everyday life. I don't think I could do that for 30 days straight. And not because you can't find him, because obviously you can. But for me to be able to document it, and that's me knowing the strengths and weaknesses. Now, are there others out there that will be able to do that and will look at what you did and say, I think I can do that? Yes.
I hope so.
And speaking directly to our audience, if you've checked out Jarrod's Finding God Each Day series and you're thinking, I think I can do that, let us encourage you. Do it. Put that stuff out there. Show people how you find God each day. Show them your life through video format, and don't worry about the high quality production value, because if you start worrying about that, you will be me saying, I don't think I can do that.
Well, let me tell you something, Josh. I could see where this would be a nightmare.
It would be
for you, because there was, even with, like, I have kind of a laissez-faire style with my vlogs. I have a design and I want to hit it whenever I have all the cameras and everything that I can do. But I'm willing to accept a lot more, I believe, than you are. A lot more goofs and gaffes, a lot more redundancies, a lot more blown out images, a lot more broken audio, a lot more. But I have a target that I'm shooting for. In this series, I think you would have been challenged because I had to take that idea and boot it out of the window.
Yep.
Because the only thing, I need to decline a phone call. The only thing that seemed to matter was just like, is it captured in some way?
Right.
So like, it's in my pocket, my phone's in my pocket, something's happening. Can I get it out in a semi-respectful way and get it recording, or can I not? And if I couldn't, it didn't. And sometimes, like, some of those images are from inside my pocket. That audio is from inside my pocket. Like, I had a conversation with a man at a gas station trying to buy his gas, and the whole premise was, if you went to buy someone's gas, could you get a Jesus conversation started? And I think for me, the answer was not always.
Right.
Because sometimes they speak a different language.
Yeah.
Now, are there lingering effects? Does he know that it was Jesus because I'm pointing and all that stuff? And there's a blessing involved? Yes. But it's in my pocket. I didn't have time to go, oh, hold on, buddy. Hey, doing some YouTube here.
Let me ask you a question. You can decline if you want, and if you decline, I will just remove the fact that I'm even asking you this question from the replay. Did you ever go through those moments where it felt like you were trying to force a God moment to happen?
Yeah, that was one of them. It wasn't forcing. I didn't do any real forcing. If I have enough of a built-in, we call it checks in our stream, in our system. If I have a check in my spirit man of like, this isn't God or this might not be God, then I'm not doing it.
I'm not in it, right?
I'm not in it. But if it's just like, maybe, I'm uncomfortable, well, I need to push in.
Yeah.
That's something that I think with Seek Discomfort and those guys, the Yes Theory guys, I think they kind of got that part right. I need to push into the discomfort because I need the comforter to show me how to do all this stuff.
Right.
So yes, but there's a lot of times where you get into it and you're trying to read the situation going, where's the spirit leading in this? Is this a conversation that has fruit and is going somewhere? Or am I trying to make this happen? And then that is tough enough in real life as it is. But now you have a recording device somewhere around you, behind you, on you, and it's rolling. And it's not much, but there's a fraction of a thought about the story and about where this is going and what people will see. Mm-hmm. And that fraction was enough to sometimes pull me out of the moment, if we're being honest, to go, I don't know that we should be here doing this. There's a couple pieces that don't make it because it's like, I was just enough off thinking about that I thought, I don't want to use that piece because it compromises where this storyline went.
Yeah.
And again, some of those were good and some of those were bad. I wish I would have hung on to some of those pieces from the early days because it did end up working out later on.
Right.
Because I eventually get to a point where I realize that it's all God.
Yeah.
It's all God. And that's been the huge breakthrough, the biggest breakthrough. I know this is a question coming, out of the series. The biggest breakthrough was it's all God. He redeems the whole mess. I mean, as long as your goal is to seek him, to be humble in the process, to be corrected by him, and to be led by him, you're going to find him. The whole thing is, doesn't matter if the camera's on, if you messed up, if you got the wrong words, if you didn't get the timing right. That was a big one in comments across the way. Yeah, don't worry, brother. You didn't get the timing right. God will work with it, and there is a redemptive part of that story that he's telling. And that's been cool to look back on 30 days and go, oh, it's all God. It's absolutely all. And that's not like a Pentecostal, a charismatic two-step to get out of. I failed a lot, but even in the failure, God was telling me something. He was making a point.
That was today's episode. You had kind of done that, and I think, is it Danielle that she had mentioned that?
Yeah.
So she had kind of brought that out and mentioned it, and I thought the same thing. Exact words that were coming out of her mouth was what I was thinking, and I was like, I'm just going to wait and talk to Jarrod about this once this is all over, because I didn't want to take you out of the moment. But you kept talking about failures, and I was like, those aren't failures.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not a failure. Now, from your perspective and how you were seeing it in that moment, sure, it could be seen that way. But as soon as I saw you, that first one that you had talked about failure, and by the way, don't change those, leave those titles because it all works and leads up to this moment. But that was where, the Apostle Paul says, his strength, it's made perfect in my weakness. When I am weak, then I am strong. And it's like, that was the moment that it's like, in our failures, that's where there's success.
Yeah.
Because the true success is in God redeeming it all. And that's the neat thing as this has progressed, and there were some moments I'm watching the series and I'm like, I'm not sure where this is going at the moment. I know where it's aimed, but I'm not sure where it's actually going. And I was okay with that, following the journey, because I'm like, I want to see where it's going, because at least I know where the aim is. I knew what direction you were heading and what your goal was for it. So then to see how God starts putting those pieces at play, it's just like, this is cool. And that's a huge takeaway from it, that he can redeem it. Like the fact that you said it doesn't matter, if your audio's off, it doesn't matter if you didn't have all the video settings, if the white balance, is off, if the image is blown out and overexposed, if you don't even have the proper equipment or you've missed the timing, whatever it is, do we think that God can't and won't use whatever we put out there to turn around
He
and
will.
glorify and reveal himself?
The thing is, it's much worse in a way, and more than exactly what you're saying, because I would say 90% of the images are blown out. I would say 90% of the audio is garbled. And to still see God have an impact on the people who are watching the videos, sometimes you go, how?
Yeah.
Out of that, how? I mean, I can see the story in it, but he's speaking to them through different things. Just to touch on the failure part, I think you'll understand the reason I accentuated some of that, being a Word of Faith guy, for you, and whatever I am, the mutt that I am, faith-wise. There are people who don't have the same perspective and share the same perspective. And so when they hear us talking about words of knowledge or prophetic or hearing from the Lord, everybody has their box that they want to put that in. And I'm very sensitive to calling a spade in those moments. So I may go too far and say, listen, that did not pan out as the original intended target of what we were going for. God hit around that, but we need to call a spade a spade. So I'm really sensitive to that. Whenever somebody says, hey, I saw feathers, falling from the heavens. It's like, okay, cool. Were there feathers to clean up afterwards? Like, were they literal feathers? Or are we talking like? Because I'm cool with either one. Are they like spiritual? Like that? There was a sense that they were like feathers falling down from the. I'm one of those, I need to kind of have the differentiation, because I think it matters, especially in rural Texas, America. Your word is your bond. And if you have heard something from the Lord, it must carry weight. And if it was you, it was you.
Yeah.
You're learning. If it was him, then we maxed the volume on that puppy, and this was him.
Well, and you had even posted on something. I mean, here's a little theological nugget that you had kind of talked about, how we get that check. And it takes discernment, and discernment is, yes, there's the gift of discernment, but then there's also discernment that we develop, and it's like a muscle. And some of that only comes through failures, thinking, because is this check in my spirit? Is this check in my flesh? Is this check in my mind? Where is that check? And when we are a spirit, soul, body, it's like, if we haven't developed it and we're not strong enough in it yet, then we may misattribute where that check is. And that's okay. It's like just acknowledging, I missed it doesn't mean God missed it. It's like, I thought we were heading here and he didn't. Yeah.
That's exactly, and to me, that's a big piece of my faith. It's John's kind of interpretation of things, because we're actually, let's put it in human terms, we're calling upon a spirit. We're calling upon something that can't be seen. God is spirit. We're calling upon Holy Spirit in our tribes. And we're asking that spirit to then inform our minds and our hearts and lead our lives. Well, 1 John 4 says we need to test every spirit. And I don't think we're not quenching Holy Spirit, we're not grieving Holy Spirit. We're simply checking in to go, is this you?
Yeah. We're
going to walk this out in faith, because if this is not you, then we need to renounce that spirit and not listen to it, because we don't follow anybody, we don't follow anybody else. We follow Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And when it's him, it solidifies that's your voice. That is how I'm led by you. And when I hear you again, we're going to move forward in that. I think this whole finding God each day thing is so like built into, my faith walk of how discernment, like you're talking about. Your word is your bond. You're following a spirit that's name is holy and only testifies of Jesus. And, and anybody who hops on that channel needs to be kicked off, because it's a refining process to where hopefully, Lord willing, the whole world is inspired to, obviously not off this series, but the whole world is inspired to follow the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. End of preaching rant. But it's very near and dear to my heart, so much so that we'll make 30 days of doing it.
Well, it has been an amazing series. I've been enjoying it so much. And we still got a couple days left of it.
I don't know. I have to tell you, man, I know I'm jacked up about this, but like, I sometimes I don't even know. I don't know what we captured on the finale. Whoa. I don't know how often because we're trying to, like, if we were to get in trouble because we weren't entirely sure whether we could or could not be filming
Yeah.
on the campus in that particular section. There's certain sections that are considered public. There's certain
Right.
sections that, it's all in the open.
Yeah.
But there are certain miraculous type moments where we're pushing start and pushing stop, and it was like, did we get that or not? I don't know, because the next instance is coming up, and it was like, it was amazing.
So here's one technical
pumped.
question that I have
Yes,
for
sir.
just being, the techie side of it. Was there moments where you wish you would have had something with a bigger battery life than a cell phone to capture this stuff?
I have a brand new iPhone 13. Thank you, iPhone 14, for coming out. I have a brand new iPhone 13 that still has I'm used to handling the Galaxy S20, so it's
Yeah.
been a couple years old. This thing never dies.
Never died?
It
Okay.
never died. No. I mean, and obviously you have a charger in the car, so I spend 30 minutes driving in, 30 minutes driving back. It gets charged quite a bit. But man, no. The only thing I wish I had was the Ryan thing. I wish I wish I had the confidence going into this series to know that it would be worth it to have someone follow.
Yeah.
But I also think that would have taken away from some of the more tender moments if there's a camera guy standing here. It's kind of hard to pour your heart and soul into one another and pray, and
Maybe.
and there's a camera here.
And maybe that would have taken away from it, or maybe not.
Maybe not.
I mean, because how many different times do we see people, even like on television interviews, they know that the cameras are there and they still break down. Or if somebody's at church and they know that the entire congregation is right there and they're still opening up.
That's
maybe.
so true, man.
Maybe not.
For a guy who really loves wide, medium, tight, everything is tight.
Yeah.
And it's all very close POV, and then whenever you turn the camera around for selfie, you fill up the entire screen. That was hard. That's a personal thing that I've got to let go of. But like, if I was to 202 it, I would really love to have somebody for the wides, just to give context of where are we, what's going on.
I will say that you, through this series, like here's my big takeaway from this series, and something that I want to just encourage people with. This series showed that the story is what matters most. Like it did in our fields, in our context of Christian YouTubers, because I mean, you see it with, Casey Neistat says it, but at the same time, he says that the story's what matters, and yet he's got all the greatest gear.
50 angles on telling that. Okay, so just to go off on a quick side nugget, chase this rabbit. So I watched This Day Finally Happened, or whatever, the surfing video that he just put out. Did you see him come out of the office? He comes out of his office and goes into what used to be the other side of his office that he sold off or whatever. Apparently now he owns, and that video comes where he's going to tear down that wall again.
Correct. Again, yeah.
So
it's got it.
It's going to be there. But I thought, oh, cool, story's king. The guy's back in his city telling his story. And then I watched how many camera angles he had from whenever he gets up to leave his desk just to go into the other room.
Right.
When he stood up, it's a front on. Whenever he turns around, it's facing towards the computer. Whenever he goes to walk out the door, it's in the hallway low. Whenever he comes around the corner, it's in the hallway high.
Yeah.
He then enters in through the door. You know how many times he probably did that? Just to show the transition of getting up to stand and turn.
Every single camera angle.
You're talking at probably between 10 and 20 angles of him coming out and going into just grabbing the wetsuits and coming back into the other side. So story is king, but man, he's got some flair when he tells that story.
He is a great visual storyteller.
Wow.
And that's where it's like we hear people like that say it. Casey's all about story is king. Story is king. I'm not saying it's not. But there's also a little bit of this like, yeah, you say that. However, you have all the greatest gear. And you've been doing this forever. Like when I watched this series that you've done, it proves that the story is king. There is a crimson thread that is running through the entire thing, and it's all about let's give God glory. Let's make sure that people can find him every day. And so every day we're going to see it. and it just built and it built and it built upon itself. And you didn't have the wide medium shot. Sometimes the phone was in your pocket. You know, you weren't able to do a lot of like, I didn't see the drone busted out once.
Not once.
And I'm like, where's the drone? Like, come on, at least Mavic Mondays on this series or something, you know, just go out one day and I'm going to record drone footage for the entire series. And then, you know, we can go from there.
And there's a certain practicality as well to 30 days, the turnaround of 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
Because cell phone footage exports much quicker than everything else. And then to have your 4K A7S3 cranking away at
60
10
frames per second.
Yeah. No, not that one. Cranking away at, you know, if you were to go set up a wide angle for all of these shots. And just the pace of it was so insane that like you can't then come home. If you ever wanted to sleep again, you can't then come home, get it all packaged up, sent off, returned, uploaded, blah, blah, blah. It's too fast.
Yeah.
It's too fast. So, cell phone. That part of that is laziness as well, because like it's so much easier to go, oh, let's just record it as it happens, rather than, okay, we're at the Mexican restaurant for the 900th time. If you haven't noticed, it's like a staple we're at the Mexican food restaurant. Let's put up the camera. We don't know if anything's going to happen inside of this.
It works. Here's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day, like how often that I do a video and I'm like, I'm in the office again. Like, aren't people getting bored of seeing the office again?
No, I love The Office.
I'm the only one that gets bored of my own office. Like, did I ever get bored of seeing, you know, George and Jerry setting in the diner? No. Every single time. They're just sitting in the diner and they're having a conversation, and I loved it. And the Mexican restaurant? No, I loved it. I did not love seeing Wingstop multiple times because then we wanted Wingstop.
I saw that.
But yes, it was good. And I think you also just kind of showed something, because for those that don't know, Jarrod has a video production company. He's got the gear. He's got the equipment. He knows how to do all this stuff, and he's a professional at doing this stuff. And he came into this series and made an amazing series about finding God each day with a phone.
With a cell phone.
And that should be encouragement for each and every one of us out there to just stop dragging our feet and make something that enhances and elevates the kingdom of God. Like, there's no excuses. No excuses whatsoever. And you did that in such a compelling way because you had the story in mind, that story about we're going to find God. Because if we can find God every day, we can truly taste and see that he is good.
Yeah, buddy.
And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, the world needs that. So you did it. Like, awesome job.
Well, thank you, good sir.
Yeah.
Just to give you statistics and numbers, if I'm not sitting behind the desk in that series, I think it's 5 or less times that I whipped out the camera, like the actual big product. The rest of that show, the rest of that series is cell phone.
And see, I've been stepping it up because I would say that in the last 3 videos I've made, there's probably been 5 times that I did use a cell phone.
Well, just that, again, that Ryan thing was such a breakthrough. It was like, okay, if we, and Mr. Beast, he's been pushing it for a while, if we can let it go. I mean, there's still shots to be had. There's still B-roll from the cell phone. It looks mediocre, but it's there to support the story, not the other way around.
Yeah. Hey, any final thoughts you want to give to the audience about this, about takeaways? I mean, you gave us your biggest takeaway already, but any final shots you want to throw out?
No, I think we've pretty much got it. I think I would just encourage you guys, obviously, number one, it is totally doable. You can do it with a cell phone. That's the practical side of it. But he's worthy of a testimony at the greatest scale we can possibly give him. My own personal nuggets and takeaways would be to let the numbers and the stress of the platform fall, because that is not important at the end of the day. But if your heart is truly to see him magnified and to give the world a gift, of him, then tell it, whatever he puts on your heart, tell it to the fullest extent of your capabilities and go for it. I think you'll find that you're going to have a blast, and it's going to be well worth the trip, real worth the journey.
Amen. Well, hey, I got nothing else. So for those that have checked out this podcast episode, just want to thank you all again for being here. And until next time, stay blessed, enjoy God's best, and have a fantastic week. And that'll be the sign off there. I did want to get a couple before I let you go, just a couple of the comments that were on here. Diana, right out the gate, Jarrod, you crushed this series. One of my faves. Seriously.
Awesome.
100.
I mean, that's coming from the queen right there. So that's good stuff.
John was saying, well, first he said wisdom right there with the check, whether to do it, knowing the difference of discomfort versus a check.
Yep.
Absolutely. Saying
and the
this
constant
was,
refinement of that.
Yeah. Because it's exercising, it's growing, it's a process.
The ones that were hard for me, John, were the words where they weren't mine. You know, this series, right. I was trying to raise money as well for Seth's surgery or healing and then blessing, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about a certain task at hand, but then whenever like Jason comes in with the gas station deal or Anonymous comes in with the campus sign, it was like, I feel uncomfortable and I don't know that it's a check or if it's discomfort. When it's me, it's a little easier to see.
Yeah.
So just a pontification right there.
It was good. John was saying it was a huge undertaking to do this series for sure, Jarrod. Yeah, absolutely. Jarrod's phone didn't even die when he threw his phone in a Vlogpastors podcast show.
Man, it's still cracked, and my wife hounds me daily about it now. I've got a screen protector to swap it out, and she's like, just swap it out already. But I'm like, it's already broken. I don't have to worry about it. Yep. Now I can just...
I never had a screen protector, and then I can't remember which phone I bought, but I got it. I had it for, like, it was a new one, and I always bought new phones and always put a screen protector on it. This one I got, I had it in my pocket, and I hadn't even had it a week, and I tripped falling into the front door and my pocket, and it crushed it, shattered the glass. Now, screen protectors on everything again, and I mean, I don't care. Throw it all over the place. And it's just like, it's got a case and a screen protector, and it's no big deal. Yeah, he's saying, oh, yes, need to bring back Mavic Monday. We have talked about that over and over again.
It needs to come back. It's an extra thing that's like, one more thing to do.
Just take some time. You know how therapeutic just flying the drone can be.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm flying it today.
When you get out there and you just send it up and you're just kind of looking around, do that. You batch that stuff and then you do whatever you want with it. It's like, this is drone footage, and then just label the folder, drone footage, early fall, sunny day, no clouds, whatever. And then any day you're like, I wish I had some drone footage for this and I don't know where it's at. And it's like, oh, wait, I got this folder and I can just reference back to that.
Here it is.
It's your own stock library. So John's saying every Mexican restaurant is packed Sundays after service, though.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. He says you just need to hold a lavalier in your hand.
I can't do it. Well, actually, I would. I think I would if there was like a plug-in lavalier for an iPhone. I'm sure there is, but I haven't researched it too much. I probably would do that because of yesterday or today's video in the Mexican food restaurant. That's the first time I'm like, I can't hear that audio. It's too, like, the phone was compressing it, pushing down all of the different voices because it was so loud in that restaurant.
Yeah. But at the same time, for the context that it was in, it was fine. Like, I mean, you could see you were in a restaurant. You could hear the children in the back. And it's like, anybody that's ever been around a child, like, trying to get them to be quiet, like, that's like trying to herd cats.
We let them all sit together. They were at fever pitch.
Yep. And he says, I know exactly what you mean, delivering a word that's not yours. Yeah. Screen protectors do work. Mavic Mondays are the OG crew, Jarrod. Call it nostalgia.
Okay.
There you go. And yes, it was hard to hear people in certain spots. The subtitle did help cover that one, though. Yeah. And, I mean, it's audio. Subtitles work, too. So it's like, if they can hear a little something, the only problem is, like, if people are listening and not watching. And then at that point, it's like, well, that's on you. But subtitles help. Anywho, I think that's all the questions that I had in here. I don't want to hold you up. I know you got to get going.
Roll.
So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you head over to Instagram, Facebook, send us a message. Let us know if you got any topics you want us to discuss. We had, I think, one decent one that came in. The rest of them were just trying to poke and make fun of me. But, all right.
Hey, wait, send them to me. I'll screen some of them. We'll see
Okay.
if we can get him.
All right. Yeah. We'll see. All right. We'll talk to you later, guys.